Hi, everyone, and welcome to another lecture for human computer interaction. I'm your professor, Dr. English Dowdell. Now, let me ask you something. When you see a company post something on social media, do you trust it right away or do you pause and think about it? Now, because whether you realize it or not, organizations are constantly communicating with you. And how they do it matters. So in this lecture, we're going to shift our focus. Up to now, we've talked about communication inside organizations, but now we're stepping outside and looking at how organizations communicate with the public. Now, what we're talking about is social media or websites and public messaging and customer facing communications. And here's the key idea I want you to hold on to. Communication is not just what is said, it's how it's designed, delivered, and experienced. And this is where HCI comes in. So let's be real for a second. One bad post, one confusing message, one poorly designed announcement, and an organization can lose trust fast. But on the flip side, clear, thoughtful communication can build credibility. It can strengthen relationships. It can increase engagement. And so, what we're analyzing in this lecture isn't just communication, it's impact. Now, by the end of this lecture, you should be able to analyze how organizations communicate with the public, evaluate the user experience behind those messages, and explain how design influences how people interpret what they see. So, yes, we're still doing communication, okay? But now we're looking at it through a UX and a design lens. Now, organizations, they don't just communicate in one place. They're using multiple platforms. They're using social media, they're using websites, emails, and even customer service tools. And here's something important. Each platform has its own affordances, meaning it allows certain types of communication better than others. So part of your job for this week's module is asking, is this the right platform for this message? Now, when you analyze an organization for this module, I want you to start here, okay? I want you to think about what is the purpose of the communication? Are they informing people? Are they promoting something? Are they reassuring during a crisis, maybe? Or are they trying to engage? Okay, because if the purpose and the platform don't match, then communication breaks down. So the next question I want you to ask is the message actually effective? Okay, so you're going to ask yourself, is it clear? Is it easy to understand? Is it accessible? And here's the thing, sometimes the issue isn't the message, it's the platform design limiting how the message is delivered. Now let's talk about tone. Okay, tone is huge. Okay, the same message can feel professional, it can feel friendly, it can feel condescending, it can feel confusing, depending on how it's written. And here's the key, tone directly impacts trust. Now, also remember that different users may interpret like the same message differently. Okay, so organizations have to design communication that works for a diverse audience. Okay, now this is where I want you to bring in your HCI knowledge. Okay, so as you analyze, I want you to think about the affordances. What does the platform allow users to do? Okay, I want you to think about the signifiers. Are there clear indicators of how to interact? Think about accessibility. Can everyone understand and use this? Think about visibility. You know, um, it's important information. Is the important information easy to find? And then I want you to think about feedback. Does the system respond to users' actions? This is what takes your analysis from basic to strong. Okay, so now let's talk about what can go wrong, because this happens all the time. Poor communication can lead to misunderstanding, it can lead to confusion, can lead to loss of trust, even to public backlash. So part of your job in this module is thinking critically, what could go wrong here? And then don't stop by identifying problems. I want you to think like a designer. Okay, what would you improve? And I want you to be specific, not just saying make it better, okay, but how would you make it better? So for your discussion for this module, you're going to choose one real organization, okay? Then you're going to start analyzing. You're going to analyze their platform, their communication, their tone and trust, and their risks and improvements. And don't forget, you must apply HCI concepts. That's what's going to take your work to the next level. Now, some quick advice. Pick an organization that you're familiar with. Okay, use real examples and be specific. And most importantly, don't just describe. Okay, I want you to analyze. I want to see your thinking. Now, this week is also preparing you for milestone 4. Nothing's due yet, okay? But I want you to pay attention to how your organization communicates externally, what platforms they use, and what works and what doesn't. And start taking notes now, because in the next module, you're going to be building on this. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this. Communication is not just about sending a message. Okay, it's about how that message is experienced. Okay, so for this module, I want you to pay attention to what you're seeing, think like a user, think like a designer, and I'll see you in the discussion.